Welcome, Connie. We're here again today on FPAC Channel 9 for Opening Fairfield Doors. I'm Susan Kessel, Connie Boyer, and our guest, Steve Smith.
Hello.
Hi.
And for those people who don't know, this is Steve Smith, the man behind the radio voice in the morning.
Oh, I don't know about that. Sometimes I'm in front of the voice.
In front of the voice?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm that fast. I'm faster than the speed of sound.
Well, you do a great job.
Well, thank you.
And people do recognize your voice, but they don't get a chance to see you, unlike FPAC, where we're on, whether we want to be seen or not.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've been at the checkout counter or something like that, and someone will turn around and look at me and, hey, are you such and so? Yeah, that's me.
The voice.
I apologize.
Oh, don't apologize.
So Steve, tell us about yourself a little bit. You grew up in Batavia, I believe,
Yeah.
according to what I hear on the radio in the morning.
Batavia. I lived there my entire life until about 8 years ago, and went to Cardinal High School, went to Indian Hills for a while, and about 15 years ago started KMCD and worked there.
How long ago?
15. Actually, I think 16 years ago this month.
I want to ask how old you were then.
37.
When you started?
Oh, when I started? Oh, it was
Wow.
16 years ago. You do the math. 21.
So very young.
Yeah, yeah.
And what prompted you to get into radio?
I was working for a Jefferson County manufacturer, and I remember something my dad and granddad said. They said, you know, if you could possible, work smart, not work hard. And I don't know what that meant, I guess, but it's something I always enjoyed listening to the radio. I was a radio rat growing up. I liked listening to talk radio. I mean, I like music as well, but news and information, I enjoyed that kind of thing. And so one day I just made a decision that I was going to go to school to learn how to be in radio. And I had a friend who's still in radio locally who had went to a school in Cedar Rapids, or the Quad Cities, and had gotten a radio degree there. And so I went up and I enrolled in classes, and it was going to be 6 or 8 weeks before classes started. And so I enrolled, and I came back, and I just happened to stop by the radio station here. There was a gentleman on the air by the name of Bill Collins. Wild Bill Collins was his name, and he hired me as a part-time guy. And I started working weekends, and by the time 6 weeks rolled around, they said, "Hey, you're in. You don't need to go to school." So
I was going to say, what do you learn at school?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, like, what kind of degree is that? Is that like a 2-year degree?
Well, yeah.
What do you learn?
It's just like a tech school, really. I mean, it's like welding. That's how they.
You
That's
learn
how
to move these buttons up and down?
That's what they teach you. And there's some technicals. And the first couple years I was in radio, I kind of regretted not going to school because there were things I didn't know that came and went. It took me a little longer to grasp.
For the young kids that potentially might want to do radio, what?
Go to college.
Go to college.
Yeah.
What
Get a
should they know?
Journalism degree. I mean, there's a lot of research. You know, I think people will be amazed at the amount of reading that we do to. You know, I hate to say keep informed because we sometimes sound like buffoons on here, but that's sort of by design. But you know, there's a lot of. I would go to school and get a degree in journalism. Learn how to write and do research and that kind of thing, because there's if you're going to work in small town radio, and like I've chosen to do, you got to be a jack of all trades. You got to know how to report on sports, write about it. I don't know how many city councils or school board meetings I've been to in my 16 years. I mean, I've been to a lot of them. So it took a long time for me to learn how to write a
So
news
do
story.
you find yourself writing a lot of scripts, or are you just live you?
On the air, just in the mornings, it's I would say 90% of it's just Seth and I, and Lee Muntz is great.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of an idea when we go in. We talk before we go on the air, and we do a lot of talking off air and between in commercials and during news features and things like that. And so we have an idea of what we're going to say and how we're going to say it. What actually is said sometimes is another thing.
So when you read the news, is that taped so it's the same reading the news the next hour, or
No.
do you
Well,
read it live
sometimes.
every time?
You know, computers have really changed in the time I've been in radio, 16 years. It's changed probably more than the previous 50 before that with the addition of computers. And I know Susan probably attested to this with FPAC. I mean,
just in the last few years, the change in equipment.
it's enabled us. In one way, I'm sorry to see it, because it's eliminated some jobs, but it's also probably eliminated the jobs that from the people who probably weren't talented enough to be there in the first place. But it's also enabled us to expand what we do, and you know, the news that you hear at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, most of the time is live, but sometimes the computers enable us to record it and play it back, and so we can be out doing something else, whether it's covering a sports story or enjoying the afternoon.
So what's your favorite part of your job?
Being on the air.
Being a ham?
Yeah.
Are you ever at a loss for words?
Every day. Every time the
No,
red
I
light. Every
can't
time the
believe
red
that.
light goes on. Here I'm a program director and I guess an operations manager. Sometimes they call me, which means I'm pretty much responsible for everything you hear on the air, which can be a big responsibility. But there was 3 hours from 6 to 9 when I'm on the air talking to you and you and you. Those are the times that I like best.
3 hours straight.
Yeah, so well.
Straight almost.
Well, but we do, we have some features like ABC News and sports and things like that that give you time to catch your breath and reload for the next opening.
You have to know a little bit of everything that's going on in the community, and
You have to act like you know what's going on. I think anybody listens, they know that I probably don't know much.
oh, you have inside stories and
No.
all that.
I'm always amazed how they'll, like you do the birthday thing in the morning and they'll come up with these, maybe has-been stars, I shouldn't say that, but, or somebody that had one hit wonder and they can pick out the group that they're from or whatever.
I bet you're great at
I can't
Trivia
remember those
Pursuit.
things.
Well, I like Trivial Pursuit. I'm pretty good at it. In
I
fact,
bet.
I can't. A lot of times I get called middle of the night. Who sang that song? And I say I don't know. Because I've been back here 8 years at KMCD, and when I came back 8 years ago, they made a decision. We made a decision that the AM we would make a news talk station, and so I don't get to listen to that much music anymore. And so if it's not older than 8 or 9 years old, I don't know the answer. But I do get a lot of calls. Who did this? And then people expect me to know movie trivia and all that kind of stuff. And I guess I know a little bit. And also, it's the theater of the mind. Unlike TV, it's here. This is who we are.
Right.
On the radio, I can tell people I'm ruggedly handsome. I can't get away with it here. But
Yes, you
we
can.
also have we also have a computer right there, and so we can act like we know a lot.
Now, did you do like drama or anything in high school?
I was in one play in junior high. I was Friar Tuck in Robin Hood. It was a very good Friar Tuck.
I'm sure you were.
So did you have any idea when you were little that you'd head in this direction?
No, I figured I'd be in jail. No, I don't know what I thought I would be.
The other thing is, do you have to get interviewed for the voice? A lot of radio people have a distinctive voice.
My father-in-law still says I have another voice than I have every day, and I don't know if that's true or not. I don't think I do. I don't think I do this on their air. So
I think that's funny because my husband will tell me sometimes you have on your talking to your daughter voice or talking to your father voice, or so I think, I suppose you do.
In bigger markets, and I took a job in Kansas City at WHB, and they had points about my voice at the time. I'm very glad that that's a job that I eventually, walked away from and didn't stay long. But it's because big city's not where I'm at. They wanted something else, and you go in at the end of the day, and they would critique it each and every day. And that's why when I had an opportunity to come back here, I knew that I could come back here, and I guess the thing that I like that this is who I am on the air, and so.
You can be
So they
yourself.
wanted you, I suppose, don't say that, and
It wasn't so
Or-
much that. It was just every day there was a critique, and after a while you get a little, I have a fragile ego, and after a while it kind of wears on you.
It does make a difference when people say things. I've had people say things to me, and you really feel it. But I think there's a great radio station with Lee Muntz and the group, Seth.
We're very fortunate, and they all are doing what they want to do, and I think for the most part doing it where they want to do it at. And that was one of the lures for me when Jay Mitchell called and asked if I would be interested in coming back. I had a wonderful job at the Lake of the Ozarks, and we still go down quite a bit. And every time I'm down there, I say, "Why did we ever come back?" But the fact of the matter is, this is home, and this is where I
So,
started.
How did Jay find out about you? I mean, but you had lived there, or you had worked here before.
Yeah,
That's right.
it's an interesting story that Jay, when I worked here, that's hard to say, 16 years ago. When I started 16 years ago, at one point I did a little bit of sales, and the company that owned the station at that time hired Jay as a consultant, sales consultant, to come in. And we all met, and I struck up a conversation with Jay, and actually had written him 2 or 3 letters over a 4 or 5 year period after that one meeting, and asked his opinion about this or that and the other thing. So I knew who he was, and he has a newsletter that goes out on a weekly basis to 500-600 subscribers a week for small market radio, and so I'd read his newsletter every week, and so I knew who he was, and when I found out they had an opening, I let it be known that I was interested, and he called and said, well, we're interested if you're interested, and it really turned out to be something great, I think.
And Jay Mitchell has a history in radio, I understand, family background,
Yeah,
right?
his father owned
and
stations in Cedar Rapids.
Connections
Yeah.
to Ottumwa, and
Yeah,
so. And I think there's that kind of the family atmosphere between everybody that works there, because we do hear the same voices every morning, and you'd not only talk about world happenings, but you also talk to some degree about your families.
yeah.
And so we feel like even though we don't know you, we know you.
I sometimes joke a little bit, but I talk about my son Frank quite a bit, and it's because he's the number one thing in our family, and it's been interesting over the last few weeks. I have been to county fairs and whatnot, state fair, and we get around town a little bit, and everybody knows Frank, and I kind of chuckled that he's I hate to say the word famous, but he's more known than I am now. We were at the bank over the weekend, and we hear about you, and he's kind of shy. He's as shy as I am, so maybe more shy than I am.
And are radio people shy? I always hear this from radio people that they're shy.
Oh, I'm about ready to throw up right now.
Oh.
I'm so nervous.
I don't believe that.
Oh yeah, I'm more comfortable in that studio. Outside of that studio, I'm really not that gregarious or outgoing. I'd rather just be in that
I can relate
room.
to that a little bit.
Do you think that's typical of radio people?
I think of the good ones. I don't know, because
They're in the league of their own.
That's
those
right.
good ones.
I've traveled quite a bit in radio. I've worked in 5 or 6 other markets, and the guys who are out. I mean, I've worked with a few that are good, but the guys that are out there and want to be known are guys who are on the most part, I think, are pretending to be that way. I enjoy
Rush
going.
Limbaugh, Dr. Laura, what are the big names?
Well,
The performers.
Imus in the morning.
they're
whatever.
performers, and
Yeah.
but I think deep down they would probably rather be in the background.
Interesting.
That's my opinion.
So what are some of your other interests?
Well, I work all the time, so I don't have any other interest. I just playing at home with my son. I enjoy baseball and the outdoors, fishing and hunting and things like that. My wife and I like to travel a little bit. We don't have a lot of time, but when we do have, 3 or 4 days in a row, we'll try to get out of the area and maybe take a day trip somewhere to do something new. It's something like a trip to Galesburg, maybe for a night, that recharges your batteries. I mean, there's a lot of things to do locally, but sometimes just getting away and not having to worry about your
Your voice.
cell phone. Well, no, just that,
Attracting attention.
well, no, it's not it at all. It's just that when the phone rings, sometimes you just oh, is it work again? And but when you're out of the area, you don't have that pressure on you, and you can recharge your batteries and just you can relax.
Right.
And sleeping, I like to sleep.
And I'm sorry, I got to go back to programming. You said you're programming. What does that really mean? Like, what is your typical day?
I hate to say because
It's going to make you look bad?
it's going to make me look bad.
Well, Jay isn't watching, so it's fine.
He might be watching. We get there pretty early. Seth gets there a lot earlier than I do. He's there in the 4 o'clock hour. I don't show up till a little after 5.
So you got to be a morning person to be in radio.
And oddly enough, neither one of us are morning people. If we had our druthers, I'd sleep till 9 and he'd sleep till noon.
And Lee Muntz, I've heard him talk about getting up. I don't know when he sleeps.
Well, he sleeps in the middle of the afternoon. He's a nap guy. Yeah. No, we get up fairly early, go in and print things off the computer, and we do our morning show until 9.
Print things off the computer, like what things? News things that have come
News
across?
and sports and daily topics, birthdays, celebrity birthdays, that kind of thing. And so we have those at our fingertips so we can sound like we know everything. And we talk a little bit about what we're going to do that morning, and then we do our show. 9 o'clock get off, and then I organize the rest of my day, which includes a lot of commercial production. 99% of all the commercials you hear on the air are written and produced locally. Then as program director, there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be filled out. As quote-unquote operations director, there's journal maintenance and things like that need to be taken care of. And it's just some administrative kind of, if there's anything about, you ask what I like best about my job, that on the air is the best part. The part I like least is the administrative type.
Is there a lot of regulations
Well, we're a federally regulated industry. So
that you have to deal with,
yeah.
such as? Maybe give us a few examples that maybe the common person wouldn't know.
You know, every Wednesday morning between 9 and noon, you'll hear the EAS alert, the emergency alert system. And those have to be documented and logged and then rebroadcast. We get them from somebody who gets them from somebody. They originate in Des Moines. And so we have to document when we got them and then when we send them out. And in fact, I was just reading an email this week that the FCC is really cracking down on stations who don't do all that paperwork properly. And you can be fined as much as $325,000 now
Ouch.
if you don't do that. There's other things too. I mean, there's a push right now in the legislature to make sure that we record everything that we air from 5 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night. And
Oh, really?
Yeah, just
Every day.
Every day, and that's because of the the recent rash of indecent things have been said on the radio. I apologize. No, start with the Janet Jackson thing at the Super Bowl, and I don't think a lot of people realize that it's a financial burden. If you had to record, well, everything you do is recorded. So,
but that is like you say,
so,
a burden to the radio
that's a
station
burden,
for tapes
financially,
and
exactly the equipment, the outlay of cost, and things like that. And so, that's just one of the type of regulations that's pending out there. But every single thing we do is regulated. To really, as a federally regulated industry, you really have to watch and make sure the paperwork's done.
So how do you feel about, there's been discussion in the news about, the number of companies that are owning radio stations, TV stations, of course, is narrowing and narrowing. We're getting fewer owners with a lot more market, and so...
Well, deregulating the industry several years ago was a boom to some. I mean, if you had money in Clear Channel or Infinity, which is CBS, I mean, you've probably made a lot of money. I knew it probably would never affect me because I knew that I wasn't going to. First of all, I knew I was a realist enough to know that I probably was never going to again get a job in Chicago or New York or a top 50 market. So I wasn't going to have to worry about it. And the other thing is that as long as you are doing good radio on a local level, it wasn't going to affect me. It's been bad in some sense because the programming that you hear in Chicago might be the exact same thing you're listening to in San Antonio. Now again, we play talk programming a good majority of our day, but we also have a very local morning show, noon, afternoons, with the sports and the news and everything. We're very local, so I knew it was going to affect me, but I don't think it's been a good thing. It eliminated a lot of jobs.
So, as an industry as the whole, you don't think it's been
I don't think it's been a good thing, no.
Interesting. Just curious as to, somebody who works in that area, what your opinion is on it.
Rarely has consolidation, I think, in any industry been very good. Competition has driven people to be better and better. I always, as me as a radio person, I wanted to be better than the guy down the line, but now that I'm on every station, there's no reason for me to get better if I'm working in that huge corporate environment. Plus, in those environments, those people are hamstrung a lot. I mean, if there's something if I want to do, if I decide on Wednesday morning that tomorrow morning I want to give away 10,000 widgets, I just give away 10,000 widgets. I don't have to go through. I don't have to go through a hierarchy of command to make sure that it's okay, and it goes to legal, and then the script writers get it, and then the production or they have to sell it and do this. I do what I want, Sometimes it gets me in trouble, but I do what I want.
But it's not big enough to get in too much trouble, I don't
Right.
think.
No.
I think you're pretty
and I don't
safe.
think only once we've ever given away 10,000 widgets. And the person actually turned them down. So I still got them. I may give them away next week.
Tomorrow, you better be listening on the radio station because you
If
never
you need
know.
them.
They had widgets. Who'd have thought that the winner already had a whole bunch of widgets?
It's amazing, isn't it?
I thought I was the only person who had widgets.
So does little Frank listen to you on the radio in the morning?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, he's back when we're driving in the car. Sometimes he'll let me do a commercial. And that's you, Daddy. And he's not exactly sure how it works.
How you got there in
Yeah.
that car.
And the scary part is he knows now. He's been up at the station enough that he knows how things kind of work. And so the first thing he does is he wants to put on the headphones.
How old is he?
3. And
3. Oh.
he grabs the microphone, and so I have to record him, and he has to hear it back, and he'll want to do it again. And so it's a lot of fun. And as long as he doesn't think he's doing it for real, if he thinks he's just playing, he's a lot of fun to have on there. But when you want him to do something,
Then
he
he
won't do
gets
it.
real quiet.
Yeah, he won't do it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
You have to
Well,
trick him.
I think that'll be a radio man in the making here.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a good possibility.
Could be. He's a ham. I know at home. If he can learn how to just do it in the booth, that'd be all right. He's like I said, he's a lot like me. He's shy, and so if you get him out in public, he won't talk to you much. But if it's just him, he's pretty funny.
So in the commercial production, do you like change your voice and do all that? And
not a
some of
lot.
these other commercials I hear, I know it's the same person. That one real annoying commercial that's what's that? helpwanted.com kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one lady, I know it's the same voice, and she's
Yeah, and that's a very talented group out of Cincinnati that does those radio. In fact, they've won probably more awards for production than any other production house in the country. They're very talented. Well, sometimes it requires you to change your voice. It depends on the tone of the commercial. If it's a car dealer and they're having a big sale on Saturday, you're more boisterous than you are if you're selling beeswax candles.
But as a general rule, we're going to recognize your voice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, there's some on the air that, in fact, there's one on the air right now that it has the voice of a operator who's telling someone that they're, it's in the middle of a phone message web, and it's for an insurance agency in town, and that's somebody. It sounds like an older woman on a telephone, and that's
you?
No, that's one of our guys though. But it was probably on the air 3 or 4 weeks before I ever knew who it was. And we have, like I said, like with computers, things have changed a lot, and so we have the ability to change the pitch and the tone and how our voices are heard. But I'm not a voice guy. I do one voice. It's a dumb guy, and you're hearing it right now.
So maybe we should talk a little bit about some of the adventures that you've had in your life the last, year and a half?
I climbed Everest.
Yeah?
Yeah. No.
I believe everything you say.
I was on the Iditarod. Is that what you're talking about? I started the Iditarod and finished second? No, that wasn't it either.
Oh, shoot. Let's see. What else?
Did you believe that?
No, I
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
Yeah, I figured you out.
Well, you had a big event happen in your life. So tell us about that.
A couple years ago, it's just about 2 years ago, I was having some leg problems, joint problems in my lower extremities, and so I went to the doctor, and I hadn't been on a scale in a long time, and I was overweight. Anybody who knew me then knows I was overweight. But I didn't realize how much I was overweight, and when I stepped on the scales, I was just floored, and I was really kind of shaken about the whole deal. And so after I went through my regular laundry list of things, as I go to the doctor because I'm a hypochondriac, I said, now tell me about gastric bypass surgery. And I was actually in the office with Jim Richmond here in town, Medical Arts, and he says, well, there's a lot of people around who've had it. He says, I don't know much about it, but I can give you a phone number to call. And so I called the number and started the process of having that done.
So,
No, go ahead.
I know we both have questions. So you just went to the doctor, and that number on the scale is what really did it.
Yeah.
And how long did you wait before you made that phone call? I mean, not the
day.
next day.
Yeah. Literally it was the next day. It was interesting. Frank's 3 now, so that's 2 years ago. He's a little over a year old, and I just realized, I'd kind of been realizing I had to do something, and I'd done a lot of things, but when you're not really able to, in a large part, to get down on the floor and play and go out in the yard and play and things like that. And at that time, as just a 1-year-old, there wasn't a lot of need for that. But I knew that when today came, when he's 3 and he's running around like a banshee, that there was no way that I could keep up with him. And in the current state I was in. So that was the motivating factor. But when I saw that number on the scale, it was over 300, and I thought, I got to do something.
So had you battled weight issues all your life, or this was just something that happened over time?
I was overweight in high school, but the thing that kind of helped me a little bit, and eventually helped me even today, is that I was athletic. Even though I was overweight, I was athletic. In fact, I was surprisingly athletic for, it might sound like I'm bragging a little bit, but I was surprisingly athletic for as heavy as I was. I mean, I
know you're a golfer.
Well, you don't need much. John Daly's a golfer.
He's a good golfer,
yeah,
too.
Exactly. Yeah. Craig Stadler's a golfer. Yeah, I never had any illusions that I was skinny. I was over 200 pounds in high school, but I played basketball 3 or 4 nights a week. I played softball every night of the week during the summer, and I just, I was healthy. I was just a little overweight. But in the from 25 to 35, I just actually probably from 27 to 35, I've really gained a lot of weight.
Well, your job is sedentary.
Yeah,
and so you would really have to make that effort outside of your job, like a lot of us do that are sitting a lot during work.
Yeah, but I would never. I've talked to a lot of people since I had the surgery, and that's just a small factor of the 2 trips to McDonald's a day wasn't helping either.
I was going to say, had you tried some other?
Yeah.
You probably tried everything like all of us try.
Yeah. That was one of the processes when I made my initial call to the doctor, which I think was in October of 2002. Is that right? Yeah. Wow. The first day I went up there, I had a short consultation. She said, "Well, come back and we'll do a longer exam and consultation." And that's one of the things you go through the second part of the day is you have to really document your efforts. I mean, I'd done the Weight Watchers, and I'd done this and that. I'd hired a trainer. I'd hired a nutritionist. I'd joined the rec center. I'd done this thing and the other thing. And as everybody knows, on the short term they'll work, but the reality is, unless you make drastic change in your life, they're not going to work. And by drastic change, I mean you got to eat less and you got to work out more. And
And it sounds like you already were working it.
Well, I was but the 5 years prior to that, I'd stopped playing softball and I'd stopped playing basketball, and it's funny. I have a good friend here in town, Danny Carey, who one night stopped at my house and wanted me to go play basketball about 9 o'clock at night. And I said, "Oh, I'm not going to go. And Jill said, "Go." My wife said, "Go." And so we went and played basketball for a couple hours, and I had a blast. I mean, I just had a blast. I had to call in sick the next 2 days because I couldn't walk. I mean, so I wanted to play. The mind said yeah, the body said no. Yeah. So again, you have to document all that stuff, and you have to go through a lot of medical tests. And after I went through all the medical tests and everything, I remember my doctor coming back and says, "You were active when you were younger, weren't you?" I said, "Yeah." "Why?" And he says, "Because you're a healthy person, except you're 150 pounds overweight." I said, "Wow."
So how long a process was that? By the time you made the call to go through all these kind of preliminary.
Well, I made the call.
I
think it was in October of 2002, and at that time they told me it'd be in April before they would ever see me. There's a huge demand for this, right or wrong. A lot of people have their own opinions about it, but they said it would be April, middle of April, maybe the latter part of April, before I could even get in to see the doctor for my first consultation. And so I just wrote on the calendar. In fact, I think it was the first part of April, around April 6th. My birthday is April 4th. And about a month or so later, they got a call and said, "Hey, we can get you in January. Do you want to make the change?" I said, "Yeah, the sooner the better." In the meantime, I'd done a lot of research and reading about it, and decided that, if it was going to happen, this was one time it was going to happen. I had gotten the information I needed and talked to a lot of people and did the research. And so I went in, and fortunately, I got a hold of a Dr. Koster at Surgical Associates in Grinnell, who at that time, and I think even today, is considered to be probably the best there is in the state at doing it, if not in the Midwest. I hear great things about him and read great things about him on the internet. And I went through the test. Everything was good. And like I said, he said, you know, we can do it if that's what you want to do. It just takes a matter of getting your insurance to say they'll cover, because it's an expensive proposition, $45,000, $50,000. He says that usually takes 6 or 8 weeks for them to approve it. He called back in 3 days and they said, we can do it when you want to do it. And I said, the first Friday you have open, and it happened to be the 21st of February.
Did you have anybody try and talk you out of it?
No. I didn't really tell anybody up until about 2 weeks before I did it. My wife knew, and then I was also kept Jay Mitchell at the radio station involved, because you need to have a very understanding and flexible employer, because it's a major surgery, and if you don't have the time accumulated, or they're not willing to work with you, it's a tough thing to get done. And so I hadn't really told my parents or anybody. I mean, Jill and Jay were the only people who knew up until about 2, maybe 3 weeks before I did it.
So the research that you did on the internet, go to the library, talk to other
all internet
patients?
All internet and talking. I mean,
and how did you know what you were
email.
finding was real? That's what I always wonder if you do.
Well, at the internet, you know, at the internet,
research on the internet.
you type in a certain category and you'll get 8,000 or 800,000 responses, and so just through the sheer volume of the legwork that I did, I was able to formulate a pretty good opinion on what I thought. And what I knew going in is that it's a serious operation. It seems to me that the 2 in 100 don't come out of the operation. I mean, that's a pretty big number if you think about it. If I had a 98% chance of winning the lottery, I'd play it every time, you know. But if I had the 98% chance of surviving, I don't know, you know. But I looked at it this way, that, you know, without it, I probably wasn't going to, you know, in the back of my mind, I thought, I get to 45, I'll die of a heart attack if I get to 45. With it, you know, I'll live a longer, healthier, happier life. So.
Did you know anyone that had been through it?
No.
No?
No. I went up for another consultation at the hospital, and a lady had come in, and they sit down with you for quite a while and talk to you, and she had gone through it. And actually, she was from Fairfield originally, many years ago, and she runs a support group up there. And I talked to her about it, and they want to make sure that you know that it's a life-altering move that you're making. And I've known people locally who've had it who weren't able to adapt to the changes that your body requires to maintain. And so they have not been successful.
Is it reversible?
The type I had is reversible.
Okay.
And
I didn't even know there was such a thing as reversible.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, what they've done, and we're talking about gastric bypass. I don't know if we ever said that or not.
Yeah. Oh, did we say that?
I think we did at the beginning, but we should mention again that we're here talking Fairfield Opening Doors, and Connie Warrior and I are visiting with Steve Smith, and
we also, I guess, want to say that we're just talking about one person's experience, that, you know, each person has to evaluate individually what their needs are. And
exactly. I just got an email this week from someone who, as I did it, I kept a kind of an online journal, which was therapeutic for me. But I just got an email this week from someone who had, at that time, was thinking about it and printed it out, and she just went back and read it this week and then emailed me, because she's starting her own process, and that's the main thing. I say, listen, I can only tell you what my experience is, and I've had some ups and downs with my experience, but all in all, I get asked maybe at least once a week, would you do it again? And with everything I know, I would still do it, because the benefits outweigh the pitfalls.
so again, in your layman's term, tell us exactly, you know, what did they do as far as your stomach?
They, I had the open bypass, which is, there's 2 types now. There's the laparoscopic, where they make 3 small incisions and do everything with scopes and small instruments. I had the open. Dr. Koster believed that there was fewer complications with the open. He was able to see inside of you and check your other organs and things like that, which I guess is, like I said earlier, I'm a hypochondriac, so when he comes back and says, I looked at your other organs, they all look good, your kidneys look good, you had a nice looking liver. Well, thank you. taking pictures. I had the open, and what they do is they take your stomach and they lop off 90% of it. So when my surgery was done, I had a stomach the size of my thumb. And they sew the rest of your stomach up, and then they detach at the bottom of your stomach the small intestine, and they actually removed about 4 feet of my small intestine and reattached it to the tiny little pouch. And so my stomach was that big. I was recently at the doctor, and they say my stomach's probably about as big as a golf ball now.
I was going to say, is it still like that?
It's about as big as a golf ball.
Why do they take out all those intestines?
A very good question,
In your
Connie.
layman's. And again, we have to say he's not a doctor, so we're relying kind of on his knowledge.
And which is very limited. As I understand it, a lot of the absorption of the nutrition and calories and everything is done in that first part of the small intestine. I may be wrong on this, but this is what
you're right.
And so when they take that out, that's less absorption of calories and other nutrition that's
Goes through quicker.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then why take so much of the stomach? It's so drastic, Can't they just?
And so you asked about reversible. They close both ends. And my other stomach is still
there.
Still there. And so if ever there was a point that I wanted or needed to have it reversed, they could go in and reattach everything.
Is this new, or did they used to
I don't know.
always be reversible?
I have
I
no
don't
clue.
know. I don't know. And this
So-
is different from stomach stapling too. I mean, stomach stapling was actually, I think that they just staple off part of your stomach, and food wasn't allowed to get into that. Now that part of the stomach is actually detached, as I understand it, detached, and but it's still in there. And which
So-
I wonder. My stomach says why I don't get hungry, but just one of the great mysteries of life.
You don't get hungry?
I get a little hungry now, a year and a half out. I have cravings or whatnot, and I find myself maybe a little more snackier than I was a year ago.
And that's probably why the ones that haven't been successful, it's hard to adjust to that.
It's a major adjustment. Like I said, I would never blame it on my job or my sedentary life. I mean, the job is a thing. It was the whole sedentary lifestyle, but the 2 trips to McDonald's a day wasn't helping. And when I went to McDonald's, I didn't get a salad. I'd get the double cheeseburger and the large fries and large drink. For the first year, I could eat maybe 2 ounces of meat and maybe another 2 ounces of vegetable. I mean, 4 ounces is about all I could have. I mean,
So you would eat tiny bits but more frequent, or
Yeah, I would eat
frequently?
small meals 7 or 8 times a day instead of big meals 3 or 4 times a day. And I'd take a lot of.
So how does this work with your family? I mean, your wife cooking for you? Does she?
Well, I did all the cooking.
Aha.
So
So I mean, does she change the way she eats and
Yeah,
the way
she's had
Frank
to-
eats? I
she's
mean,
had to a little
do
bit.
they eat little portions also and more times a day
we're pretty
versus?
normal. We're pretty normal now. I mean, I cook just like I did before, except smaller portions and healthier foods, healthier cuts of meat, and just my lifestyle change was much more drastic than hers. Hers, she still is able to eat what she wants, obviously, but the fact that I'm eating healthier means that she's eating healthier because I'm cooking the food.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is that now that I'm not going to McDonald's twice a day, and I think I was thinking about this just the other day, that maybe I'm not putting Frank into that same cycle, where it's easy and convenient to drive through and get a chicken McNugget.
Yeah.
We still go to McDonald's once in a while as a treat now. It's not as just as a craving.
Yeah. So tell us again about some of those life-changing things that you've had to conform to make this successful. Obviously, the diet.
The diet, the portion size.
Portion size. Any vitamins?
Yeah. You can't-
herbs or whatever extra things you have to
when
take.
you're eating that little, there's no way for your body to get enough energy and fuel to operate, and that's the main reason it's successful, is because you're starving your body. And there's a lot of people watching this right now that are probably steaming because it's controversial. This operation's controversial, but
Sure.
it's I think the thing that needs to be known is it's literally the last resort for a lot of people. I'm not saying that if it come right down to it and the doctor said, listen, you know, we're not going to do it, but you got to lose weight or die, which was going to happen anyway. I might have been able to do it, but this was my next to last resort probably. Yeah, it's protein shakes every day. You got to drink. You got to drink your protein. You got to take your protein every day.
And is that for the rest of your life?
Yeah. And I neglect that a little bit sometimes. Vitamins every day, multivitamins every day, minerals. I take iron pills and things like that every day now. And you know, you should probably take your vitamin every day anyway, but now it's essential for me.
Mm-hmm.
So what was recovery period?
Post-operative, I went back to work in a week, half days. And in hindsight, that was a huge mistake. I probably should have took 3 weeks off to recover, but I don't do much. You know, I sit in a chair and talk.
Did the doctor say you could go back to work that soon?
He said that I could go when I felt like it, and they do. Your doctor becomes, you become very close with your doctor after this.
I'm sure.
Leading up to it and then after, so he knows who you are and what you're about. And that's one of the things I want to say. If anyone's considering doing this, Grinnell Regional Medical Center in Grinnell, and Surgical Associates, I couldn't recommend anybody any better because they know why you're there. You know why you're there. They don't send any mixed messages, you know, and so.
Yeah.
And they get to know who you are. My doctor knows who, and he says if you feel like it, go. And the struggle was the stairs. If you know this radio station's upstairs,
It's a struggle, even just normal.
There's 26 of them if you're counting. So that was the struggle, getting up there.
Yeah. And you had complications, right? Afterwards?
Afterwards, yeah. I had a fairly quick recovery, post-operative recovery, at least I thought so. In fact, I was up out of my bed within half an hour of waking up from anesthesia. And by the way, the incision is a lot smaller now than it was because I don't have a beach ball out here. But it was about 11 inches. And but I was up out of bed, and before an hour had elapsed after I'd woken up, which kind of flabbergasted nurses. You know, you're not supposed to be, but I had to get up. I didn't want to be laying in bed. I was walking within 6 hours up at the hall a little bit, and so I was a little advanced there. Going back to work though after a week was not the right thing to do because at the end of those 3.5 hours, and I was only going about half days, maybe 4 hours a day. At the end of those days, I was so run down that it prolonged my recovery. So, like I said, at the minimum 2 and at the optimum 4, but I think if you're going to do it, try at the very least try to schedule 2 to 3 weeks that you don't have to do anything but get better.
Yeah, I can't imagine trying to go back to work after a week. You know, hey, this is, like you say, this is a major surgery. This isn't
and it hurt.
Going in for some stitches.
It hurt me in the long run because it took me 6 months after that to really get back to a full scale. I mean, for 2 or 3 months after I had the surgery, I was working maybe 25 hours a week instead of what I normally worked. And then I did have some complications. I still had some arthritic knee and things like that, and I got prescribed some Celebrex, and if you watch the very end of the commercial, it says, in rare cases may cause severe bleeding.
Uh-oh.
And I was one of those people. On the week prior to Mother's Day that year, 2003, I was working, and I told Marie, our office manager, before I left, I said, man, I just don't feel good. And I struggled to make it down the stairs, and I got in my car, and I sat there for about 10 minutes trying to get my bearings straight. And then I drove to Batavia, and I sat in my car there so I could get enough energy to go in the house, and I went and laid down, and I woke up, and I had to go to the restroom, and I could barely make it down the hall. And so I decided to call my wife at work, and I said, yeah, I don't feel good. And she knew that when I called it was probably a little more serious and I didn't feel good. So she came home, and I hadn't really eaten well that day, and so I thought maybe my lightheadedness was that. And so she made me some instant potatoes and put some cream and butter in it and try to fatten me up a little bit. And that didn't work, so I came to the hospital, and I found out that I'd already lost about half my blood internally. I didn't know it at the time, but I was bleeding internally, and Dr. Hill, God bless Dr. Hill, put me in, gave me transfusions, and he came in the next day and he says, well, I have good news and bad news, or good news and good news. And I said, what's that? And he says, the good news is we've stopped the bleeding, and the better news is you woke up from your nap, because I was literally within an hour or less from just expiring from the bleeding internally. And so
wow.
that was interesting. So that, you know, I was in the hospital there from, like, say, a Tuesday till Saturday. And I took the whole next week off to kind of recover from that, because your energy levels are you know, when you give blood, you have
You
to
don't
kinda,
have any energy left.
yeah, you know, when you give blood, you're kind of run down, and so when you lose half your blood, you're really run down.
Oh, yeah.
And so I took another week to recover from that. And then here recently, I'd had trouble keeping some food down. Last year through the summer months, I had the same problem, and with that Celebrex, I had developed an ulcer, and when the ulcer healed, it had healed right. The ulcer was actually at the exit of my stomach, and so when it healed, there was some scar tissue that was kind of closing the exit of my stomach, and so for once a week for 6 weeks, I'd drive to Grinnell, and they would do a scope where they'd put me out, put a scope down me, and then use a balloon to stretch that out. Well, I was having the same kind of issue this year. Earlier this summer, I couldn't eat very well, and so I went up, and they said, well, we're probably going to need to do that scope again. And so they went in, and lo and behold, it was closing up, and they did that scope, and everything was fine. I left the doctor. It only takes about a half hour to do it. The rest of the day is kind of shot because you're still kind of groggy from anesthesia and everything. But before I got out of Grinnell, I started having terrible abdominal pains and then chest pains. And
that was this year?
yeah, just a few months ago. 1st of June, actually. I think the first week of June. And finally, Jill says, we're going back to the doctor. And so she turned around and took me back to the doctor. And by that time, I was in excruciating pain. I was in tears. And they gave me a shot for the pain, which really didn't help, other than maybe knock me out. And it turned out that they had torn a hole in my stomach about a little over 1/4 of an inch.
Oh.
And
Doing the scope.
doing the scope, they had ballooned it, and it just torn a hole, and air had gotten into my abdomen. And a lot of air had gotten in my abdomen, was causing a lot of pain, and got under my diaphragm, was preventing me from breathing, and it filtered its way up into my chest cavity. And as I understand it, not a doctor, it was restricting my heart motion. And so that had me in the hospital for a week. And I actually got down to 169 pounds, which was kind of exciting in a way, but I had no energy, you know. I think, you know, let's see.
It's making me hurt.
A year and a half ago, I was 300, and now I'm 169. I'm back up to where I want to be after a few months of intensive eating. So those are, you know, it's people, and so I even today say, you know, people say, would you have it again? Because I've had these two major complications, but neither one of them were really a result of the surgery. I mean, because if taking the Celebrex, I would have bled anyway. I was just in one of those rare cases where severe bleeding, abdominal bleeding happened. The fact that I'd had the surgery magnified that complication, and because I had that complication, the second complication came this year. The surgery kind of magnified a little bit, but the surgery wasn't. I didn't have those complications because of the surgery. And so, yeah, I would have it again. Long story short, if you were going to ask if I'd do it again.
And what was the weight loss? How fast did that?
I lost a lot of weight fast. I was losing a pound plus a day, maybe a pound, 1.1, 1.2 pounds a day for the first 3 months. I lost 90 pounds in maybe a little over 3 months, which was, in hindsight, probably too much too fast. So.
But I bet you had fun buying new clothes.
You know, I didn't buy new clothes, and if you,
Steve, why don't you let me do that? I could have had a blast.
Yeah. No, finally after a while, my wife says, "You're not wearing that again." And my clothes just hung on me. I look like David Byrne from Talking Heads in that one video where he's wearing a giant suit all the time. Everything was baggy, but I knew that I was still losing, and I wasn't going to go buy. You know, my biggest pants I ever bought were 46s. I might have bought 48s, I don't know. But I was not going to go buy 42s and 40s and 38s. I just wasn't going to do it. And so finally, when I started getting my energy back, which was after maybe end of July, in the middle of July, when I started getting my energy back and my weight had kind of leveled off a little bit, I started going to rummage sales and things like that because I wasn't going to buy, and I love rummage sales. I wasn't going to go spend a lot of money on new clothes. I spend more now than I ever spent in my life on clothes, but because I'm able to. And I still sometimes have pangs of regret that I can't go in the big and tall store anymore. I walk by and I say, "Oh, hello, old friend. How are you?"
So did you keep one old pair of pants?
No, everything. I
Just
sold.
for memory's sake or anything?
No. I have pictures.
Pictures.
In fact, I looked at one on the wall the other day of a vacation we took in that October that I made the call. We went to Atlanta, went to the Coca-Cola Museum, and there's a giant Coca-Cola bear, and you kind of confused me for the giant Coca-Cola bear. It's really disturbing.
Well, whenever I see you, which is not that often, I mean,
I think you're avoiding me. Is that it?
I know. I think it's because I don't know you unless you say something.
Yeah, I get
mean,
a lot. In fact, I
I'm
had
sitting here
this,
looking at you for the last hour, and I go, I can't believe it's you.
I get that every morning when I get up in the mirror. I don't see it. I see it now more than I did maybe 6 months ago, and I've been at about 180 pounds for 6 months, I would guess. I try to be when I'm healthy, I guess. But up until 6 months ago, sometimes I'd have to do a double take in the mirror. I see it now. I really see it now. I mean, I see it every day. I mean, there's sometimes I catch a glimpse in the mirror and I'm not. It's kind of odd.
So you're getting adjusted to it.
Yeah. And that's it's interesting. When I first went to the doctor, they said they recommend that you get a psychiatrist and go through some counseling because it is life changing. But my job is my psychologist. I just talk about it on the air. And I wrote about it.
You have talked about it on the air.
Oh yeah, the week prior to doing it on that, I think it was on maybe the Monday before I went in on Friday morning to have it done. I said, I got some big news coming up, and then that Monday I started keeping a journal. I was counting down the 5 days prior. I had that week mapped out eating-wise too, because I had this one last victory lap around the buffet table.
I'm having McDonald's on Monday.
No, McDonald's was out. It was those things that you there
ice
was
cream sundae.
No, it's
Chocolate.
I knew that I couldn't eat Thursday night going into surgery, so Monday I was going to go over to a Tumble and have a canteen or two. You can't not have a canteen, and I still haven't had a canteen since. Wednesday night was steak night, and so there's a big dilemma where to go to have that one last big giant fillet. So I made that. Tuesday night was a big greasy tenderloin from a bar. Those were the things I knew that I was going to miss, and I haven't had.
So you're talking things. You're not talking sweet things.
No, and I never was a real big sweet eater. I eat more. I shouldn't say this, but I eat more candy and sweets now than I ever ate before.
Isn't that funny?
Huh?
That's funny. I mean,
yeah, I crave it more
odd.
than I did now. There's a candy jar at our house now, and it's my candy jar. Frank don't even get near that candy jar because he knows that's Dad's candy jar. It's loaded with Mike and Ike's, and so I'll only have a handful of Mike and Ike's a day. I mean, I'm always eating sweets now. I shouldn't say that makes me sound bad, but I'm brushing and flossing. But I eat more sweets now than I did before. No, it wasn't sweets that was doing me, and it was the tenderloins and the Big
The
Macs.
fat and the grease and the...
And those things I can't handle now.
yeah.
I've heard that makes you sick.
Yeah. Greasy foods, fast foods. I can have fast foods on occasion if I have 2 chicken McNuggets and 12 French fries.
So you know your limit.
Yeah. Sometimes I step over, but that's I pay the price.
And then you get sick?
Yeah. Yep. It's called.
Like get the flu sick?
Yeah.
That would do
I
it.
give it back sometimes.
That would-
There's I can't even think of the name of it because I've had it so few times. Where your stomach dumping. It's called dumping syndrome, where your stomach will actually sort of purge itself into the intestinal system, and the intestines aren't really built to handle that quantity or that type of food that your stomach's dumping. And I've only had it a couple of times. I've been fortunate because I've been really diligent about watching what I eat and how much I eat. In fact, I think maybe only twice or 3 times I've had dumping in the year and a half that I've had it. Once is a very hot July afternoon. I was doing a ball game, broadcasting a ball game, and I forgot where I was at and had a big glass of ice water.
Oh.
And about 5 minutes later, that wasn't. No, I can't take. Speaking of water, that was one of the things that I missed more than anything, the first 6 or 8 months after surgery was just drinking water, because I would drink 2.5 gallons of water a day. I just love drink. I mean, I drink more water than I didn't drink soda. I mean, I drank soda, but I just drank water all the time. I was never without a water bottle, and I couldn't do that. In fact, for 2 or 3 months, I would find myself in the kitchen drinking water, spitting it out, drinking it, just because I just liked water.
So I'm thinking the eating, yeah, but you also cannot drink.
You have to have, after you have surgery, and even today, and I'm a year and a half out, you're never more than an arm's reach away from water, because water's more important to you than food. And you can live 60 days without food, or 45 days, I guess. I don't know. You can't live more than 2 or 3 without water. And so you're always with an arm
But
reach.
you're still drinking small amounts of water.
Yep.
A lot during the day.
Yeah, I drink a lot now. I mean, I'm to the point now where I can drink 20 ounces of water in an hour, where before it'd take me 3 or 4 hours to drink maybe what would be a pop bottle of water. But I can drink that about an hour now on a hot day. I
So-
enjoy drinking water.
What does the future hold as far as
It's
your
what I make
eating
of it.
and is it going to increase
What I eat?
your intake level or stay the same?
You can. Like I said, I know of people right here in Fairfield who have had this surgery who were not ready to have the surgery because they weren't ready to make the changes. I mean, I heard a story of a woman, I don't know who she is, but I heard the story of a woman who within 4 or 5 weeks after having the surgery was eating back to eating 2 or 3 pieces of pizza. And I think, even today I can't eat 2 pieces I can eat maybe a piece of pizza and the topping off a piece of pizza. I can eat probably as much as a 5-year-old now. If I wanted, I could eat more, but I make myself, if I ate 2 or 3 pieces of pizza, I'd feel like we all felt at Thanksgiving. I'd want to undo my belt and kind of let it all hang out.
So
I was ready. I was ready physically. I mean, I was past the point of no
and
return.
emotionally, mentally.
But mentally, I was ready to make the change, and so I made it. And there are times when I eat too much, and I know that I've eaten too much. But for the most part, I know when to say when. Now push away from the table, Steve.
I think that's a big thing. I have a real problem. I mean, I'm a yo-yo weight person diet. I'm just up and down and up and down. And,
It's interesting that the surgery restricts what you can eat, but after a while, your stomach will eventually stretch out if you let it. If you return to those evil ways. And so I try. I mentioned that in June I had this incident with the stomach tear, and so I got down to 169 pounds, which is
was that your bottom?
too skinny for yeah, that's where I was at. I was at 169 pounds, 168.5 to be exact, and I wanted to be at 180. So I was working my way back to 180, but now I'm 180, and I think, oh, I hope I don't get to 182, and then I hope this isn't a trend now where I just keep going up. But fortunately, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been at 180. But there is that part of me that worries that 180 is just maybe a stopping point to 190, and then next is 200. When I started the process, I thought the doctor said, we'll get down to between 180 and 190. That's where you should be, Steve, which I thought was unrealistic. When I got to 260 pounds, I was ecstatic. I thought, well, this is great. If I could just stay here, and then I was 240, and I was just elated.
What did you start at?
340.
340.
Yeah, that's when that day I stepped at Medical Arts on the scales, and it said 340 pounds. I went, you got to be kidding me. I would have never. I
can't remember if I knew you then.
You did know me. Connie mentioned that, I had an interesting conversation with Connie. I don't know if she remembers or not. Connie and I actually talked at the what was it, the employment fair?
Jobs fair.
Jobs fair. We kind of had an exchange, and then it wasn't a couple of weeks later she came in the studios. She says, boy, I would have never known you. I said, we actually just talked a couple of weeks ago. No, we didn't. I said, yeah, we did. And I don't know if you...
And
still
how much weight in that time? That quickly...
Well, it wasn't that I'd lost that much weight between the time we talked and got back together. It's just that she didn't remember talking to me because she didn't recognize me.
Well,
and even today, like, well, I just had an incident a couple of weeks ago where I ran into a person I'd known for a long time, and she kind of looked at me, and I looked at her, and there was a kind of an uncomfortable thing there, you know. Do I say something? Will she remember who I was? And then she saw my wife, and she said, I thought that was Steve. And then I seen her a few days later after. It was kind of odd. I'd seen her a few days later. She says, I didn't know that was you. I really didn't. And I said, well, I don't even say things because I don't know if people, I don't want them to be uncomfortable not knowing that, you know, who. She goes, no, you should have said something. So
do you like people to notice?
that I lost weight? Are you insane?
I know. I've lost 10 pounds, and I'm just waiting for people to say.
I shouldn't say this. I shouldn't say this because it sounds so vain, Carly Simon. I can't wait until next year. I'll have my 20-year class reunion next year, and I'm just again, I go through this neurosis where I don't want to go because I just don't like people.
Yeah,
you know, I don't want to be in that.
understand.
I don't want to be in that crowd. But then again, there's no wild horses couldn't keep me away because I want to go and flaunt it.
Yeah. Well, and you should.
I don't know.
You
about
should.
That. I just.
Yeah, you need to
And
feel
then- but
good
there's
about
a-
love it.
yourself.
People
and
love
be
it.
healthy.
I want to feel good about myself, but then again, there is a little bit of stigma with it that, you know, oh, you lost a lot of weight? And then I say, yeah, how do you do it? I had the surgery. And then it's like, oh, you had the surgery. You took the easy way out.
You cheated.
You cheated. So there is a little bit of, you know, there's a little bit of stigma
Oh.
with that. But then, you know, then I think, no, there's not, because I did what I had to do.
Yeah.
And I also paid the price. You know, I had the two very serious incidences where, you know, the first one with the blood loss and things like that. I mean, you know, it's when the doctor comes and tells you you're lucky you woke up from your nap. You know, that kind of takes all. You know, I don't have any regrets. I don't regret telling people I had surgery now because it wasn't the easy way out, and it's not the easy way out. And that's why, again, if someone's to that point, they need to research it. And I can only tell you what it did for me and what happened to me. And my online journal, which is not there anymore, that was the very first thing. This is my experiences. If you're going to do it, I'll be glad to tell you what happened to me and how it affected my life. But it's a decision that you have to make, and you have to make not for anybody else. You can't, you know, I say that it was for me, but one of the factors that, you know, my son, my family, you know.
Those are all the reasons for losing weight that will make you do it, make you
Those got you.
face
They got me to the doorstep. But the only person that can put you through the door is yourself,
Is
and
you.
you have to make that decision for yourself. And I got to the door and I kicked it in, and I went in knowing. In fact, I remember laying on that table, strapped out. They was putting the IV, and they said, "Any thoughts?" And I thought, "Do I need, you know?" There was two things went through my head. First of all, I was strapped. If you've been to surgery, they strap you out just like this.
Yeah.
And you think, what, you know, I'm kind of goofy. You know, I thought, well, I'm strapped out to the table like Christ, so, you know, if I die, you know, he'll recognize me. And the other thing was, do I still want to do this? And I nodded to the guy and said, yeah, let's do it.
They asked you one last time.
Yeah, they asked you one
Wow.
last time, and I said, yeah, let's light this candle.
Yeah.
See you on the other side, and I didn't know what that meant. You know, that's what I had literally. That's what I said. It was see you on the other side, and I had two. I was right either way. If I didn't come out of it, I was on the other side, and it is. It's interesting if you go online and read the journals of people. They consider that date, and for me, it's February 21st, as their second birthday, because you are given new life that day. If you embrace it and do things the way you're supposed to be doing, it's a new lease on life. It's a new birthday. And it has been for me.
I think
I
that's
can't
a wonderful
imagine
way
what.
to look
yeah,
at it.
Absolutely. I had someone, a family member that was looking at it, and I said, "Don't do it." It was kind of like, "Don't do it yet." Anyway,
Yeah.
you need to go try some more stuff before you do it,
Yeah.
because it's
I
just.
think-
I think it's so
I
drastic.
tell you what's interesting. My mother was very. I think she was relieved that I did it.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I think she wishes. I know that she's told me. I wish you'd never done it. I mean, when I finally told her the week or so prior before getting it done, she says she was very happy and excited for me. in hindsight, I don't know how many times she wishes that I hadn't done it, because I've had these complications, which were really not, I would have had the complications anyway, because of extenuating circumstances. But in hindsight, she wishes I hadn't had it done. But leading into it, I think she was very excited for me, and everybody was excited for me.
Yeah. I think to reach that point, I admire you. You handled it the right way. You went at it the way you should. And I think to reach that point, you were there. And
you have to be driven to it, but to actually to do it is in the final analysis, it has to be your own decision. Is that the journey you're talking about? My experience you're talking about, the gastric bypass?
Oh, no.
I guess it was.
We were talking about
the other thing. You were talking about the other thing, weren't you?
We were talking about that great golf game you had.
Yeah.
You know, where you played with.
Thank you for sharing this, because it's a personal experience, and
see, we are like family. We don't know him, but we know him.
Online and with your listeners too. I think that's a part of what I like to try and do, is make a difference.
Well, you know, it's I like talking about it, and like I said, just this week, I had another email, which kind of caught me off guard, because I hadn't had one in such a long time. And for anyone who emailed me and kept in touch prior, during, and after, thank you, because I had a lot of well-wishers. I was a little overwhelmed by the response from the people who emailed me, wishing me luck, and then kept in touch afterwards. And so to get this email a year and a half after the fact from someone who was, as I understand it, was kind of keeping tabs on me up through, and then finally has made their decision, or in the process of making their decision, was gratifying as well. And again, I'm not endorsing the procedure. Maybe I am. I don't. You have to make your own decision. This is what it's done for me. I went from 340 pounds. And you know, it's kind of odd to even say that. You know, people say, how can you tell people? That's the fact. You know, I was 340 pounds when I started the process. When I actually had the surgery done, I was 332. I'd lost 8 pounds.
Well, and I know you had the surgery before I ever knew about it. I don't know, there must have been a period of time where I wasn't listening to the radio or something.
What?
I know.
How do you start your day? What was you doing?
Well, I'm not sure.
Maybe you was in the shower.
I think I was going to work early every morning. But I remember the first time I heard you talk about it on the radio, and I thought, he had that surgery for what? You know, I mean, I kept thinking, you know, he's not that big. I mean, that's what I thought of you. You know,
yeah,
and when you tell me you were 340, I'm still kind of blown away.
You know, I actually had this conversation with Seth the other day, because one of the things I enjoy doing now is going to the beach with my son Frank, and I went back.
The
and
beach
I said,
at Waterworks.
The beach in Ottumwa. We've been to the beach here at Waterworks Park. The beach at Ottumwa, the water slides and stuff. For some reason, kids these days aren't really turned on by sand. We love going to the beach. Yeah. It was sand. Yeah. Now you have to have all the bells and whistles to keep the little kids. And I said, you know, I try to be sensitive, and I try, you know, I try never to be mean. But I said, there are people, at least when I was 340 pounds, I dressed like I was 340 pounds. You know, I did a good job of hiding it. And plus, like I said, I was athletic up to a point where I did have, you know, I don't want to say muscle tone, but I was able to carry it. And maybe that was part of the problem that let me get to 340 pounds, that I had the body structure that could carry that. There are people with 340 pounds that look a lot worse than I do. But again, I said, you know, thank goodness I had enough self-awareness not to go to the beach and take my shirt off. And I guess a part of that was I was hiding it too. I hid it well, so thanks for not noticing.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm sure the benefits, like you say, you're doing things now that you wouldn't have done earlier, and doing
Susan
things
knows.
with
I
your
never
son.
got off the golf cart. You know, I would have never played around a golf and not without a golf cart back then.
Do you walk now?
I try to. You know, I probably play half my rounds now.
Good for you.
Walking, yeah. I'm no Bill
And your
Corick,
golf game better?
You know, it's a funny thing. It's the nurses who the nurses in Grinnell were fabulous, and I still kind of keep in touch with them on a semi-regular basis because I still go up for checkups and stuff, and we have a lot of kind of funny inside jokes between us. But I remember she says, "You have any questions?" I said, "How's this going to affect my golf game?" And they kind of chuckled because one had some surgery that enabled her to take 4 or 5 strokes off her golf game right off the bat. And I said, "Well, that's interesting." And so relearning my golf game this year has been interesting because I'm basically starting from scratch. I wish I was a scratch golfer, but I've had to learn my swing because again, I'm not swinging around a beach ball anymore. I can get my arms in. I don't know what to do with them now. But
the power.
Oh, I've lost a lot of power.
Yeah. I've noticed that.
So is regular exercise, weightlifting, any of that part of the regimen?
No,
like eating?
I did that early on, and I just go. I'm just so more active now that I don't. Personally, I don't think I don't have I mean, we all have a need to go to the gym. I mean, we should all go to the gym. All go to the gym and work out. The rec center. Support the local. I do have a membership at the rec center. I just don't. In the winter months, I'll go.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm active. I mean, I can remember there was a turning point. There was this point. It's that point where the light goes on and you realize that, wow, this was worth it. And for me, it was just a goofy moment. I had a blowout in my car. And a year ago prior, I'd have paid someone $100 to go take care of my car. It's over there, go change the tire. It was 101 degrees and there was no wind and it was just brutal out. And I got out and I got the jack out and I changed the tire and I was sweating profusely and I was taking a drink of water. I thought, this is great, I'm changing a tire. And
I would have paid somebody.
No, but it sounds silly, but there was such gratification in being able to go change that tire. And so now I get, I enjoy doing yard work. I enjoy getting out and working the dirt and planting flowers. I don't like weeding. I mean, my flower gardens are terrible.
You know who to call next time we have a flat tire, Susan?
Yeah, you can call. But that was a defining moment. Late last summer. It was in August, and like I said, I was over by Eldon, and I had a blowout. And after I had such a feeling of gratification, I was able to get out and crawl under the car. First of all, I was able to get underneath the car. I'd never been able to get under there and get that jack down there. But that was a point when it kind of clicked that it was, I don't want to say that was the moment I said it was worth it, but there was a moment there where I had such feeling of gratification. I was able to change a tire. That it's small things.
A lot of little things.
When you
difference.
get on a plane and you're able to sit comfortably in a chair, that you think about it. And the night before I went and had my big consultation with all the physical and psychological tests that they do, I took my wife to a George Strait concert, and I was so uncomfortable in that stadium chair. And I was thinking, the next time I go to a concert, I'm going to be comfortable. Damn it. That's what I said to myself, and I was true to that, and I'm glad I did it. Those are superficial things about the whole thing about it, but those things really, in the end, make it worthwhile too. I mean, the fact that I can get down and play now and go out in the backyard, and Frank loves to hit golf balls, and I hate to say it, I like to chase them. So, I'm like a Labrador Retriever now. He hits them, I run and get them and bring them back. He's left-handed, so if you have a used set of left-handed clubs, I need them.
I'll put that out there.
Those are the small things. The small things sometimes outweigh the real huge things. I mean, sure, going buying clothes is fun, but.
Well, we really appreciate you sharing your story, that particular part of your life, which is kind of personal, and it's kind of a big deal to share it with everyone. And this is, of course, going to be aired. But we also appreciate you sharing the radio side of you also, and letting people know what goes on behind the scene. And if young people are interested, they'll now know a little bit of what it takes to be in the radio business. And so I think we've accomplished our mission today, Susan.
Yes, we've opened another door in the Fairfield community, and we hope that you've enjoyed it. And once again, thank you, Steve, for sharing.
I think the Fairfield community are now hoping I'll take this tape and try to use it to get a TV job and get out of town. Maybe that's what they want now. I think it's obvious why I'm in radio.
Oh, now you know the face behind the voice.
Whether you want to or not.
Yes.
Well, thanks for calling and letting me come on.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming. We had to prod a little bit to say, come do this.
Yeah, I canceled 8 or 9 times.
Yeah, well, not quite that many, but we felt that what you had to share was important enough for people to hear.
Well, and if anybody has any questions, call, I'm still willing to talk about it, and like I'll talk until I can't talk anymore. Hopefully, it's on the air here in town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks you.
a lot.